Welcome to the most exciting story that has occupied a very big place in my life. You're about to marry the love of your life, but something goes wrong. A new tattoo, mysterious phone calls, and a bill from Miami worth 3 salaries. What happened to Adam in a video that will reveal a truth that will shatter his world? I'd appreciate it if you could take 3 seconds and like the video. I watched Olivia throw another red bikini in her suitcase. Her excitement was palpable. Miami, a bachelorette trip with her friends. I knew I should be happy for her, but I had a bad feeling of uneasiness. "Are you sure you got everything?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. Olivia turned to me, her smile bright. "I think so. Just a few days of sun and fun with the girls. Nothing to worry about." I nodded, forcing a smile. "Of course, you deserve it." He came over and calmed me down briefly by telling me that it would just be a classic trip and fun. I knew it, or at least I thought I knew it. We had been together for years, we had built a life, planned a future. Trust was our foundation, so why was there a doubt inside me? Olivia laughed, her voice warm and familiar. "Just a few days. I'll be back before you know it." She looked quietly into my eyes. As I was teaching her to zip up her suitcase, I noticed the clothes inside. Extreme mini bikinis, crop tops, mini skirts, and more. Olivia loved me, we were getting married. A trip to Miami wasn't going to change that, and I tried not to think about it anymore. When I got home, I looked at my phone and wondered if I should text him again. No, I decided I had to trust him. Trust was the foundation of every strong relationship, right? If I wasn't going to trust him, who the fuck was I going to trust? I threw myself into work, determined to stay busy. Every night Olivia called, her voice filled with the excitement of Miami nightlife. I listened to her stories, trying to ignore the background noise of unfamiliar voices and music. "I miss you," he said on the 3rd night. "I'll be home soon," he said. "I missed you too," I replied, and a sigh of relief washed over me. He was thinking of me. Everything was all right. A few days passed and I was at work, and I was very busy. But the day has finally come for him to return. I left the house a bit messy, but don't let on lol. When I heard the key in the lock, I suddenly got very excited. Olivia walked in, tanned and smiling. But when I moved to embrace her, I stopped for a moment, as if she looked different than she was. "Hey you," he said, and we kissed after our lips were close to each other, but I couldn't get that question out of my mind. I watched Olivia unpack her suitcase, her movements strange and tense. She avoided my gaze, concentrating on carefully folding each piece of clothing. When I asked her about her trip, her answers were vague, almost rehearsed. I told myself that she was just tired of traveling, but something was wrong. When we were lying in bed at night, normally we were always close and I would put my hand on his chest, but not this time. He tried to get further away from me, using his tiredness as an excuse. Over the next few days, I noticed more changes. Olivia spent more time on her phone, and when I came near her, she always turned the screen away from me. Once I walked into the living room and saw her frantically touching the screen. When she noticed me, she immediately locked it and put it face down on the floor. I said, "What are you doing? What are you hiding?" "Just my friends and work stuff," he replied, not really looking me in the eye. Olivia had never been someone who cared much about her work before. Now she stayed up late and scrolled through her phone until the early hours of the morning. One night when I woke up to find her out of bed, I felt a shiver run through me. I found him in the kitchen, whispering on his phone. When he saw me, he abruptly ended the call, "Just checking on a project," he said, his voice too loud, too cheerful. I nodded, pretending to believe him, but lying awake that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. The woman lying next to me felt like a stranger. A week passed and the restlessness continued. I caught myself watching Olivia, cataloging every little difference in her behavior, how she jumped when her phone rang, the way she made excuses to run errands by herself. She always had the phone in her hand. One morning, as I watched him getting ready for work, I fully realized that all our old intimacy was over, and inside I was starting to get a little angry. I took a deep breath and forced a smile as Olivia kissed me goodbye. "Have a good day," I said, my voice more determined than I felt. I didn't want to see Olivia change. We'd always been comfortable around each other, but lately something felt different. When I opened the bedroom door, I saw her ass, and something caught my attention. There, against her skin, was a small tattoo I'd never seen before. Olivia felt a sudden rush of excitement and stress when she noticed me. She quickly closed her robe. But it was too late. I had seen it, a little heart with what looked like the letter inside. It blew my mind. When had she made it, and why hadn't she told me? I asked Olivia what that was on her thigh. I raised an eyebrow, waiting for him to continue. He took a deep breath. "I got it in Miami," he explained. "It was spur of the moment. It is for you, Adam. I wanted to do something special to show how much you mean to me. I wanted to believe it, and I didn't believe it anymore because you know how he has been behaving lately. Why didn't you tell me about this when you came back?" Olivia shrugged, not quite meeting my eyes. I wanted it to be a surprise. "And, well, I'm a little embarrassed. It was such a sudden decision. Can I see?" My voice was softer than I had intended. Olivia hesitated for a moment, then slowly opened her robe. There it was, just as she had described, a small heart with the letter A inside. It looked fresh, still slightly red around the edges. "It's beautiful," I said, because it was, and because I didn't know what else to say. Olivia smiled, a look of relief on her face. "I'm glad you liked it. I was so nervous to show it to you." When she closed her robe and turned around to get dressed, I stood there in a strange confusion of emotions. Part of me was moved. The idea of permanently marking Olivia's body with my initials was romantic, wasn't it? But I thought there was something to it. It was morning the next day, and it all started so innocently. I was looking for my car keys and figured Olivia must have left them in her purse, so I decided to look in her purse. As I rummaged through her purse, my fingers brushed against a crumpled piece of paper. I pulled it out, expecting a grocery receipt or maybe a dry cleaning receipt. Instead, I found myself looking at a receipt from a tattoo parlor in Miami. When I read the date, my heart began to race. It was a perfect match for Olivia's bachelorette trip, the trip on which she claimed to have gotten that surprise tattoo for me on a whim. I just stood there, and everything Olivia had told me about the tattoo suddenly felt empty. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing a crucial piece of the puzzle. Taking a deep breath, I walked into the living room where Olivia was reading. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "can we talk about something?" He looked up. His smile faded when he saw the receipt in my hand. "Where did you get this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "In your bag. I was looking for my keys." "Olivia, why didn't you mention that when I asked about the tattoo?" She bit her lip, her eyes darting around the room. She said she was embarrassed again, trying to find an explanation, but all her words sounded like lies to me. "But you said it was for me," I protested, a surprise. "Why didn't you tell me this in the first place?" "I was afraid you'd be upset," he said, his voice hoarse. "And then, when I saw how moved you were by the idea that this was for you, I didn't want to ruin it. Is there anything else you haven't told me?" I asked, hating how vulnerable my voice sounded. Olivia shook her head and reached out to take my hand. "No, Adam. I promise. It was just a stupid mistake." I said okay and faked a nod. At around 3 a.m., I woke up to go to the toilet, only to be greeted by cold, empty sheets. Who could he be talking to at this hour, and why did his tone of voice give me goosebumps? I crept down the stairs, careful to avoid the creaking third step. Olivia's voice came from the kitchen, low and urgent. I couldn't make out the words, but the tension in her tone was clear. My heart pounded in my chest as I approached the door. Just as I was about to turn the corner, Olivia's voice abruptly cut off. I heard the soft click of her phone being set down on the counter, and I took a deep breath and walked into the kitchen. Olivia jumped when she saw me, her eyes wide with surprise. "Adam, you scared me. What are you doing?" I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I woke up and you were gone." "Is everything okay?" He ran a hand through his hair, avoiding my gaze. "Yeah, just work stuff. A project that stresses me out." I nodded slowly, watching his face for any sign of deception. It must be a pretty important project to keep you up at night. Olivia laughed nervously. Suit yourself, she said, but it's just a project. Who were you talking to? I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. Olivia's eyes shifted to her phone on the counter. Just a coworker. We're working on this project together, and she's in a different time zone. I nodded again, wanting to believe him, but the pit in my stomach grew deeper. That sounds pretty intense for a job interview. He shrugged, a forced smile on his face. You know how I am when I'm stressed. Come on, let's go back to bed. I'm sorry you woke up, he said. On the way to the bedroom, I kept wondering about the person he was talking to, and bad things kept coming to my mind. The notification that appeared on Olivia's screen was about to turn our world upside down. I froze, my eyes fixed on the glowing screen of Olivia's phone. She had left it on the kitchen counter while she showered, and I had only looked at it out of habit. But now, those words were etched into my retinas. I want to see you again. The sender's name was Alexa. I must have been in a moment of shock because I waited at the message for 2 minutes. I picked up the phone, my finger hovering over the screen. Should I open it? Should I read more? The thought made me sick to my stomach. This was Olivia's private correspondence. We had always respected each other's privacy, but hadn't she already crossed the line? Hadn't she been hiding things from me? I put the phone down, my hands were shaking. I needed to think. I needed to breathe. The bathroom door opened, and I heard Olivia's footsteps approaching. I hurried away, trying to pull myself together. Hi, she said as she wiped her hair with a towel. I looked at her, searching her face for any sign of guilt or deception, but all I saw was my Olivia, the woman I loved, looking at me with concern. Yes, I lied, my voice sounding strained. He nodded, apparently satisfied with my answer. As I took his phone and walked into the living room, I felt awful. I'd never been like this before. What was I supposed to do now? I spent the rest of the day in a fog, watching Olivia for any clues. I flinched every time her phone rang. When she smiled at her screen, my stomach churned. Was she talking to Alex? Was our entire relationship built on lies? As night fell and Olivia fell asleep next to me, I made up my mind. I couldn't face her without more information. I needed to know who Sarah was and what she meant to Olivia. Tomorrow, when Olivia went to work, I would call the number I had jotted down and put her in her place. My hands were shaking as I dialed the number listed as Alex on Olivia's phone. Hello, a deep, masculine voice answered. My heart stopped. Hi, I stammered, completely caught off guard. Is this Sarah? There was a pause at the other end. No, I'm Alex. Who are you? I said. Sorry, wrong number. And you don't know how I felt at that moment. How could he do this to me when I loved him more than life itself? I started crying like a child. I remembered everything Olivian had done, and I immediately went after him. It was either revenge or my mind was overflowing with questions. How long had this been going on? Was it just the texts, or was there more to it? I remembered reading that a lot of affairs nowadays are the result of technology. Incriminating texts, suspicious phone behavior, it was all there, right under my nose. I looked at our wedding photo on the mantelpiece, at Olivia's smiling face. How had we gone from that moment of pure joy to this? I felt a mixture of anger, sadness, and deep disappointment. The woman I thought I knew better than anyone else in the world had become a stranger. As the reality of the situation dawned on me, I knew one thing for sure. It was time to face the bitter truth. No more secrets, no more lies. No matter what happened from now on, I had to face Olivia and hear the truth from her. Only then could I decide what to do with the broken pieces of our relationship. Olivia walked in, a smile on her face that quickly faded when she saw my expression. Adam, what's wrong? I took a deep breath and pulled myself together. We need to talk, Olivia. Can you sit down? He hesitated, then slowly lowered himself onto the sofa. I could see the surprise in his eyes, mixed with a little fear. I prepared myself for what was about to happen. "Who the fuck is Alex?" I yelled. I had no more patience. Olivia's face paled, her eyes widened in shock. "What? I don't know what you're talking about." I said, "Don't lie to me. I called the number I saw on your phone." "Don't lie to me, stupid woman." "Adam, I'm so sorry. How long has it been?" The neighbors might have cursed at the noise. Olivia looked at me, her eyes filled with tears. "It started in Miami," she confessed. "At the bachelor party. I never wanted this to happen, Adam. It was just supposed to be a fun night, but then—" He interrupted, and my anger rose. "But then what, Olivia? You decided to throw our whole relationship away for a fling." "It wasn't like that," he protested weakly. "I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. I was trying to end it, but Alex, he wouldn't let go." I laughed bitterly. "What about the tattoo? Let me guess, was that his idea too?" Olivia shook her head, unable to look me in the eye. "He said it would be romantic, a secret symbol of our time together. I trusted you," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I believed in us. How could you do this?" Olivia broke down, her body shaking with sobs. "I'm so sorry, Adam. I never meant to hurt you. I love you, please. We can get through this. I'll do anything." As Olivia continued to cry, I realized that this was just the beginning. The truth was out, but the real pain was just beginning, and what would happen at the end? Olivia's eyes darted around the room, avoiding my gaze. She took a shaky breath and began to speak. "It all started the second night in Miami. We were at a club, and I'd had too much to drink, and Alex was charming, attentive. He made me feel special." My stomach churned. The tattoo I thought was for me, a declaration of his love, was nothing more than a sign of his betrayal. "So it wasn't for me, Alex," he finished. "That's his middle name. We didn't just meet once," he admitted. "We kept in touch when I got back. That's why I talk on my phone so much, and those midnight calls. How many times have I told you?" She closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. "3 times since Miami. Once when I said I was working late, twice when I said I was meeting girls for drinks. And more. Why?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Why did you keep seeing him?" "He just said he didn't know." I laughed bitterly. "And how did that work out for you?" "Adam, please," she whispered. "Can we talk about this? I made a terrible mistake, but I love you. We can get through this." I stopped stepping and looked at her. This woman I thought I knew better than anyone else in the world now seemed like a stranger to me. "A mistake," I repeated hoarsely. "A mistake is forgetting to buy milk at the store." "You were having an affair, Olivia. You lied to me for days and days." "Adam, wait." Olivia called after me, but I was already gone. As the sun began to set, I found myself parked on the beach where we had our first date. I watched the waves lapping against the shore, feeling as turbulent as the sea in front of me. I knew I had to make a decision, but how could I choose? On the one hand, the thought of forgiving Olivia and trying to rebuild our relationship seemed impossible. The trust we had built over the years had been shattered in an instant. But on the other hand, the idea of walking away from everything we had shared, of starting all over again alone, was equally terrifying. I sat there for hours, weighing my options. When the stars began to appear in the sky, I realized I was not ready to make a decision. With a heavy sigh, I started the car and drove home. Olivia was still lying on the couch when I walked in the door, looking small and fragile. She looked at me, hope and fear warring in her eyes. "I need some time," I said quietly. He said he would stay with his sister for a while. After Olivia left, the silence in the house bored me to tears. I sat on the edge of our bed, my phone in my hand, and decided to call my best friend. "Jake," I started, my voice cracking. I need to talk to you about something." There must have been something in my tone because Jake's voice changed immediately. "What's wrong, man? You okay?" I laughed bitterly. "No, not really, because of Olivia. She cheated on me." I closed my eyes, and the pain came over me again as I told the story. The mysterious tattoo, the late-night phone calls, the confrontation. With each detail, I felt the weight in my chest increase. I don't know what to do, Jake. I finished, my voice barely above a whisper. How can I trust him again? I don't know, man, I admitted. The thought of trying to fix it seems impossible right now. I understand, Jake said. But you don't have to make any decisions right now. Maybe you should start seeing a therapist on your own. It might help you sort out your feelings. I nodded, forgetting for a moment that Jake couldn't see me. Yeah, maybe you're right. I feel lost, you know. I know, man, but you're not alone in this, okay? As we said goodbye, I felt a small sense of relief. Jake's words echoed in my mind. I wasn't alone. The road ahead would be hard, but having someone by my side made it a little less difficult. My legs bounced nervously as I sat in the waiting room of the law office. Deciding to consult a divorce lawyer felt both liberating and terrifying. When the receptionist called my name, I took a deep breath and stepped into the unknown. The lawyer, a middle-aged woman, greeted me warmly with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Mr. Thompson, I understand you are here to discuss a possible divorce. Could you tell me a little about your situation? I paused, the reality of why I was here hitting me like a ton of bricks. My wife had an affair. I managed to choke out. I'm not sure what to do next. The lawyer nodded in understanding. I'm sorry you're going through this, Mr. Thompson. Unfortunately, infidelity is a common cause of divorce. Let's discuss your options and what to expect if you decide to move forward. Now, Mr. Thompson, given the circumstances of your spouse's infidelity, it is important that you protect your assets, he advised. Have you collected any evidence of the affair? I nodded and felt a pang of regret. I only know what you told me. I didn't look for any evidence. The lawyer leaned forward, his expression serious. If you decide to go ahead with the divorce, it can be very important to document evidence of the affair. It could affect the division of property or possible alimony payments. As he spoke, I couldn't stop thinking about Olivia. Despite everything, the thought of actively seeking evidence against her bothered me. Was I really ready to take that step? I nodded, grateful for his understanding. Thank you. I think I need some time to think about all this. As I walked to my car, I realized that this meeting had opened my eyes to the reality of what divorce would mean. It wasn't just about ending marriage, it was about destroying the life we had built together. The thought was too heavy. Sitting in my car, I hadn't started the engine yet. I knew my next steps would be crucial. Did I want to gather evidence? Was I ready to uncover potentially more painful truths? Or was there still a chance to save what Olivia and I once had? Finally, as I pulled out of the parking lot, I made a decision. I needed to know the full extent of Olivia's betrayal before I took any legal action. It was time to uncover the truth, no matter how much it would hurt. But then I remembered the lawyer's words about protecting myself and gathering evidence. Taking a deep breath, I opened the screen. Surprisingly, it wasn't locked. Olivia must have forgotten in her exhaustion. With my heart racing, I opened his messages. At first, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Work emails, messages from friends, reminders about appointments. But then I noticed a folder labeled photos. It was harmless enough, but something in it made me sick to my stomach. I touched it to open it, and my world shattered again. There, in vivid color, was the evidence of Olivia's betrayal. Selfies with a man I thought was Alex. Intimate photos I couldn't bear to look at. My vision blurred as my eyes filled, but it wasn't just photos. There were also messages hidden in this secret folder. I read them, each word like a dagger in my heart. The fun banter, the jokes between them, the plans they made. It was all there, laid out in front of me. I never thought I'd be one of those people who would go through my partner's phone in the middle of the night. I collected evidence of every single one of them. When I was done, I carefully erased all traces of what I had done and put Olivia's phone back on the nightstand. I didn't know what was going to happen next. We met later on my way home from work. Olivia, I began, my voice more determined than I expected. We need to talk about your relationship with Alex. Without a word, I took out my phone and showed him the messages and photos I had found. His hand went to his mouth. A strangled sob escaped his lips. I felt a pang of guilt for invading her privacy, but I didn't care anymore. Why, Olivia? I asked, my voice cracking slightly. What did he give you that I couldn't? He shook his head frantically. Nothing, Adam. You gave me everything. I don't know. I was stupid. Selfish. I got caught up in the excitement and didn't think about the consequences. As I watched Olivia break down, as she realized the full impact of what she had done, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to console her, to tell her that everything would be okay. But another part of me, the part that had been betrayed and lied to for weeks, couldn't bring myself to give her that comfort. What now? Olivia asked between tears. I closed my eyes and tried to sort out the chaos in my mind. On one side was the love we shared, the life we built together, years of memories, laughter, and dreams. Could I really throw it all away? I tried to imagine a future where I could trust Olivia again, where I could look at her without seeing Richard's face. It seemed impossible, and yet part of me desperately wanted to believe it could happen. But then I remembered the secret messages, the secret photos, the weeks of lies and deception. How could I be sure it wouldn't happen again? I stood up, paced around the room, surrounded by our shared life photos on the walls, Olivia's perfume on the dresser, our clothes mixed together in the closet. The thought of separating them all and our closets hit me hard. Adam, his voice was barely a whisper. Have you decided? I looked at her, I really looked at her, the woman I loved for so long, the woman who broke my heart, and in that moment I realized, yes, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, yes, the words that followed would change everything. I watched Olivia's face as I spoke, saw our future unfold in her eyes. Whatever happened next, there was no going back. The decision had been made and we had to face the consequences. I started writing, then deleted it all, started again, deleted it, and the cycle repeated itself for hours. Finally, I settled on a simple message. Olivia and I are separating. I appreciate your support during this difficult time. I thought for hours whether I should send the message, and I felt depressed. Once I pressed the button, there was no going back. Our private pains would be public knowledge. I took a deep breath and clicked. Responses started coming almost instantly. My phone started ringing non-stop with calls and messages. My family and friends were calling all the time and I didn't answer any of them. As night fell, I sat on our couch, scrolling through messages. The reality of our situation made all the more real by the reactions of those around us. I thought about Olivia and wondered how she was dealing with it. Was she experiencing the same mixture of support and judgment? Did she feel regret after the revelation of what she had done? But it wasn't always easy. Sometimes I'd catch a whiff of Olivia's perfume on a sweater I hadn't worn in a while, or I'd come across an old photograph tucked away in a drawer. In those moments, the pain would resurface and threaten to undo all my progress, but we parted ways and I was very sad. My life advice to you is never marry someone you don't love very much and never forget them, and always be together. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe and like to support me. I love you and see you in the next life lesson.